What's up, everybody? Welcome to the last episode of the Vulgar Geniuses podcast for the year 2023. We are your hosts.
My name is Denny.
And I am Veronica. And we're very excited to close this year out with y'all. What y'all been up to this whole 2023?
We are up to a lot of things. We did a lot of things for 2023. And I think we are very proud of what we did.
Yeah. I think that this was a very abundant year for Vulgar in a way that I don't think we could have imagined it going.
Yeah, we started our live shows this year. We had a couple. We had 6 live shows in total.
We'll talk about those later. But first, I think if anything, we definitely have to talk about the podcast episodes that we had, because I feel like we started the year off with straight fire with none other than writers like Juji Morales. Juji was our nonfiction children's writer pick for the month of January. That one was good. She had an exhibit at the Orlando Art Museum that inspired us to be able to go and seek her out and see if she would be a part of the show, and she said yes, and we're so grateful for it. Her son kind of like connecting us to her.
Right. And it's probably one of our best interviews to date. Like, she was so giving with information. She's wise, she's funny, and she said she could have talked to us for another hour if we let her.
Yeah, we talked for a long time in
long time. And it was about everything and anything. And of course, her book, what inspired her book. So if you have children or you just want to read about something that is very significant, check out her work, because she not only writes, but she's also an artist. She draws, she paints, she uses mixed media in her books. So everything that you see there, color-wise, picture, means something, period.
So then we talked to other writers like Jonathan Escoffery, who was a finalist for the National Book Award Foundation last year in 2022. So that was quite an honor to be able to speak to him. It is always our goal to try to talk to everybody who is either nominated for that award or who actually wins it. And I think we did very well. We talked to Jonathan. We talked to Fatima Asghar and
Jamil Jan Kochai,
which was one of my favorites.
Yes.
Interviews of the year. Which interviews did you like the most out of the whole year?
So I like Amber McBride. Her book is We Are All So Good at Smiling. I also like Miriam Gurba. Her book is Creep. Fatima Asghar, When We Are Sisters. And Jamil Jan Kochai, The Haunting of Haji Hotak. And also Young Vo. Young Vo graced us twice, because Young was, a guest in the podcast talking about his children's book, and then for API we brought him back, so we actually had the pleasure of listening to him read gibberish to children for Unleash the Genius.
That was awesome. I'm so glad that he said yes. I think we just slid into his DMs and
yeah,
for both, like to ask him for the interview and to have him to come and read live for the children, and he's just the sweetest person in the world.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, of course, I would be honored. And I'm just like, what?
And the children loved every minute of it. I thought that was sweet. I think they even had questions. It was a Q&A afterwards.
Yes.
I wish we could have recorded that.
Yes, but, children.
Yeah, privacy and whatnot. But yeah, my favorite, I would have to say, in addition to the ones that you named, Kendra Allen. She was a nonfiction writer that we had on back in, I think, for our anniversary month for April, either April or for February. We had creators. We had a lot of good creators this year. We had the creators of the Black Library, which is this nonprofit organization, art collective that's based up in upstate New York. That's doing some amazing work up there. So if you're ever in that area, or if you want to find out more about them, go online and look up the Black Library, that's based up in New York. We also had Bookstagrammer Cree
Yeah.
Miles on the show.
That was fun. That was a good ass interview.
Yeah, yeah.
Cree
Cause
is legit.
yeah, and I mean it was awesome to be able to be in the likes of all of us being Libras and talking about books and creativity. It was a very Libra conversation.
And she's so smart, pleasant, and so good at what she does.
And hilarious. She's very
Yes.
funny.
Very funny.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I would just say that Fatima Asghar was amazing. Like to be able to speak to someone whose work I first got in contact with her work by way of a short that was on YouTube. She was writing this short with Jamila Woods, who was a part of the cast. But her work came to me by YouTube, and then now she has this book out. So it was awesome to be able to speak to her. But we had a really nice lineup of interviews. We still have some interviews that will be coming out in the new year that did not come out this year, but we're very excited for you all to be able to listen to it. I am kind of disappointed though that some of the books that we had featured didn't get interviews because of like scheduling issues. But it's so good. It's all good. Like I think that we did very well out of all of the interviews that we had this year. There were only two that we
Mm-hmm.
didn't, get to talk to about their books, but outside of that, I think we did pretty well. I think we did pretty well.
I think we did great. It's amazing how we did it. Like to find a way of like reading the book and actually talking to the author. That's something
That's
that
always the biggest challenge.
yes, but that's also something that people are very surprised that we can do.
Hmm.
So, 1 or 10, we still did it.
We did it, Joe.
And
Yeah.
we keep reading the books so we can talk to these people. And it's always so nice to hear them say like, "Oh, those are thoughtful questions. Thank you for taking such good care and like reading our books and stuff." And we develop this sort of like friendship with these authors, and we talk about everything and anything under the sun, if within reason.
Yeah. So let's go and talk about like the biggest achievement that we had this year with Vulgar.
Going outside.
We went outside, y'all. We went outside. I know we were really excited about it last year when we went to do the conference in May of 2022 with the not national, but the state librarian conference here in Florida. But this year we went out. People
Yeah.
saw our clothes.
Yeah, it was 6 live shows. So there's Veronica does even before Vulgar was Vulgar. She's always done Black History trivia night for Black History Month, and then we did 2 Midnight Marauders for Orlando. So these are upcoming writers, already established writers. 8 of them, 4 in each show, reading their pieces, their stories. We ask them questions, so it's also like a podcast. We had a live event for Rollins College when we had these very, very, very good students.
Yeah, I think there were also four writers or five.
5 writers.
Oh, five.
5 writers are color, baby.
Yeah, at Rollins College. So for those that don't know, Rollins is a predominantly white university, a white college, liberal college here in Orlando, Florida, or where I should say Winter Park. But it was a pleasure to be invited out by Vidju. She is a professor there at Rollins, and she saw us at our very first Midnight Marauders event, and immediately like we got an email from her like the next day. She just loved the event, and she was just so thankful. And when we replied back to her, just saying, "Oh, thank you for those kind words," I think like a couple of days later she was like, "We gotta bring y'all here."
Yep.
And that was, we've been paid before for an event, but this was our first like major major
Yeah.
paycheck that we
and
got.
and even then, like, it was just so nice to see, like, oh, there are future people in the future
Yeah.
that would continue good literature. And, like, it's always to see nice to see that there would be, like, people of color in the future, and these are the children that read.
And we are going to be all right because they were truly amazing writers to grace the stage. Who a lot of them, I think, majority of them were not in any shape, way, or form majoring in creative writing. That they just happened to take a course, and they were chosen by this teacher who had taught them previously. They weren't in her current classes, so for them to say yes, we will come out and share their works was truly awesome. There's an episode of that available, so if y'all want to listen to the work that they gave us, it's available. It's available wherever you listen to your podcast.
And also, another writer graciously came down to Florida as a part of her book tour. This is Minda Honey. Honey, honey, honey.
Yeah, Minda Honey. She wrote The Heartbreak Years, which is a memoir about her love life during the Obama years and a little bit afterwards. So
Mm-hmm.
she came all the way to talk to us, and she hit us up. She was in the middle of booking her tour and then asked if we would, host her as an event, and we were like, yes, we've been waiting a year for this question. We had her on the show last year, so to be
Mm-hmm.
able to have her on this year to talk about her first book was great.
Yeah. She's hilarious. She's also very down to earth and, like, can command a crowd.
Yeah.
So, if you want to bring Minda Honey to wherever you are, there would be a good time.
Or just go buy her book. Just go. You can bring her home with you from the library or from the bookstore. Do that.
And yeah, earlier we talked about Young Vo, our little Unleash the Genius Zoom, not really meeting, but meet up with the children and young, talking about reading her book and reading his book and talking to the children afterwards.
Yeah. So we did a lot of stuff this year in regards to live events. I also teamed up with So What Art Gallery. They needed some art for the month of May and hit me up, and I was like, what could we bring? And I decided that I would create something called the Circle Time, an art installation that is like an anti-racist library. So we set up the space like a library that featured books that the writers that we've had previously, or the creators that we had previously on the show, that they said that were their favorites. We had a space where people could look at those books, and the interactive or the performing art part of it was people could take the book from off the shelf, bring it to me, and sit in front of me, and I would read them an excerpt from the book. It was a wonderful time that was spent during that weekend of doing this art show. There were a lot of different conversations that I had from visitors that came. Some were a bit on the controversial side of the conversation, but I think that was the whole point of the event, to be able to have these discussions about the importance of reading books in this time that we are currently living, where people want to erase us from the conversation, the importance of what it is to read and to revolutionize yourself in literature. We're living in a time that is unprecedented for us in America, and I think that it is important to sit with what it is that we are currently dealing with here in this country, and doing everything in our power in order for us to make sure that our children and our children's children and our nieces and nephews and just us in general have something to look forward towards in the future when it comes to literature, especially literature that's written by people of color. So it was a great experience to do that. And in helping to promote the event, being able to go on WPRK, the
You
radio.
went on the radio,
Went
girl.
on the radio. So that was fun. And even having a chance to read some of my pieces on the radio was cool. So shout out to Frankie Mancina for inviting us to be a part of that. Um, we can't say uh, we can't go on this podcast without mentioning the help that we had this year.
Oh my God, yes.
Shout out to Preston.
Hi, Preston.
Um, he really helped us a lot this year. As much as when it comes to my time management, if you've ever listened to these end of the year podcasts, it has always been a part of my resolution with time management. Still struggling in that area, but I do have to thank Preston for helping us get a lot of these things done. Throughout the year. I think like half of these podcasts wouldn't be available if it wasn't for him. So I'm truly grateful for that.
And also DJ Rubox, Scotty.
Oh, yes, for holding it down at the live events.
Yes, he would like play music, he would provide mics, chords, background music, like, amping up the space. It was nice to have somebody that got our back, because sometimes technology and all of these other things don't work out during live events. So,
Yeah.
Preston, Rubox, Scotty, thank you so much for helping us out, for being great friends and, supporting the cause of the arts.
So now we're at that point of the conversation where we're talking about our resolutions for 2024. Last year, for this year, we wanted better time management and to read more nonfiction. So, how did we do with that this year?
The time management, questionable.
Non-existent. It's not even questionable. It was non-existent.
The the nonfiction, better. I think we did really good, both children nonfiction, middle grade, and adult.
Yeah.
Like, I think we covered all of it, and we had a great time. Even like creative nonfiction, right?
Yeah, we were able to have our very first local writer come on. We had Melanie Farmer, who wrote a piece called Rolling, that was chosen by none other than Colson Whitehead for an award. And we were so happy to be able to be connected to her and to have her to come on the show to talk about her book, which is, when it comes to creative nonfiction, I think she obviously was the first person that we've ever had on the show that has done a work like that. But it definitely shows you how you can take your writing and explore.
So good.
Yeah, and explore like those things that are meaningful and real in your life and how you see them in such a creative way. So yeah, it was nice to have her on the show to talk about her book. But yeah, this year, as far as like time management goes for me, y'all, full transparency moment, depression is a motherfucker. And so sometimes it can keep you from being your best self and living your best life. And so I don't know if any of you all are consistent listeners to the show, but you realize like those episodes weren't dropping like they normally would. And that is just thanks to depression and probably possibly undiagnosed ADHD. Who knows? We'll see. But outside of all of the hindrances, I'm glad that we were able to put out what we needed to put out, and hopefully we'll do much better for y'all in 2024. Regardless, we're glad to those who stick around and listen to us talk crazy talk with these writers that come on the show.
Secretly, you love it though, so you just
What,
wait.
the podcast?
The crazy talk in the podcast.
Oh, of course.
People love it. So, they're always going to come back. But yeah, so since we're talking about resolutions, I guess before we talk about resolutions.
Well, we are talking about resolutions.
So talking about resolutions, do you have any resolutions for the upcoming year of 2024?
I think I'm just gonna stick with the time management. Like I've said, all of these other years, it's always gonna be a part of the resolution list until I get it right. Um, Other than that, I would have to say that I would really like for us to do more on the Unleash the Genius end. I want us to go back. It was something that we started back in our first year, with trying to get books into the classrooms, and now we are in a state where Orlando School District, or Orange County Public School District has taken out 673 books from out of the classrooms. And to see that all of Toni Morrison's work is not allowed to be in the hands of a child, that's disheartening, to say the least. And so I think it is our mission, it is our calling to not only talk to these writers that come on the show about their works, but also to go and tell people you have to do everything that you possibly can.
Right, because it's very reminiscent of Celeste Ng's novel. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about it in the podcast too. So it's, and what Azar Nafisi was saying. It's like all these years coming up to 2024 kind of sums up like what's going to happen in 2024, but
Mm.
we're trying to like not think, probably fight it so it doesn't go that route, but it's like these premonitions, like, oh, 2020 warned you about this, 2021 warned you about it, 22, and then 23, and now this upcoming year it doesn't really look very good for literature, especially for BIPOC literature, and also for the LGBTQIA plus literature in queer literature in Florida. So that is a part of my resolution. I kind of want to, highlight more of the banned books and maybe just watch out and see whatever's going to come up from our thinking heads, what we can do more for the book banning here in Florida. Also, speaking of resolutions, um, last year I did say I want to read more nonfiction. This year I kind of missed my short stories.
Oh, we're going back to short stories.
Yeah, I kind of missed my short stories. And we didn't even read a translated literature.
No, we didn't.
And translated literature sometimes is the overlooked black sheep stepchild of the literary world. But I think there is a lot of promise, especially now that, through internet, through technology, we can reach more books that way. Yeah, I think it's an untapped like thing, maybe in, you know,
Maybe just in our scope.
maybe.
Or maybe in general. Like I don't know a lot of people who are talking about books that have been translated that they're reading.
Yeah,
It's a lot of like whatever is current
right.
within, our own native
Little,
language here. And
yeah, our own little bubble. It's easy to just go down that route because there are already so many books.
did we have a translated for last year in 2022?
I don't even remember.
I don't think we did. I feel like The Whole was probably the last.
And that was such a good read.
I think it was the last and the only book that we had that was translated.
Maybe.
Yeah, but we got to do better. We got to do better. But, here's to 2024 and our resolutions and the hopes that we have for this year.
Yeah. I think it's just about fighting this 2024. We're tired of fighting, but we got to fight.
We started off in 2020 and that was a whole year of like insanity with COVID and nobody wanting to wear a mask and da 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 and
Yeah.
election and
It's very, like reading books written by people of color, I think always would always be political. It's a political stance. It's something that is not, to me it's kind of like a way of life. It's a statement. It is me. So if like this something that's very important. It took me so long to like discover fully what this means and how it impact like fully understand how it impacted my life. So we got to move on forward and know like we need to see us in the future. And the only way to do that is to pave a way. And the way is kind of hard because there are a lot of hurdles, but I think it's achievable with the right people and with the right platform.
Yeah. So, as we close out this conversation, there are, several reminders. Number one, free Palestine. Number two, send your prayers up for our two of our favorite writers that have been on this show. One is Chanel Barnes. She had a brain aneurysm um, later this part of the year, and so she's in the middle of the hardest part of her recovery. So we're hoping that that she can be able to pull through and get back to her regular self. I know that this is life changing for her, but we're hoping that she can be able to pull through all of this, and you all just send some good vibes to her. Also, we're lifting up,
KSA Layman.
yeah,
KSA Layman has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And, this man is very secretive. He is very private about his life. And for him to come out and, just tell everybody that this is what I'm going through, and still yet to manage to fight not just his disease, but also a political fight is quite amazing. Prostate cancer is not something that is also very taken so lightly. He values his life a lot, and we value his life a lot. He has done a lot for the Black literature and the Black literature renaissance in the past few years. Both of these writers have written very good books about survival, about being accepted, about everything that a BIPOC person struggles when coming or living in America.
but yeah, with that, we hope to send good vibes to them. So if you all are lovers of their work, if you have no clue who they are, go find out who they are, and yeah, just send your thoughts and prayers and good vibes to their direction. Um,
Tell
but
them we sent you.
but we also just want to say that we hope that 2024 is more than abundant for you all. That it is a year of a metamorphosis, of change, in transformation into a better self for each and every person that has listened to this podcast, even including ourselves. We hope that you all are healthy, that you all get wealthy if you're not that, and that y'all stay wise in everything that you do.
Yes, thank you for sticking with the Vulgar Geniuses. Keep sticking with us. We would not disappoint you. And, from 13 going on 30, I wish that you would be 30, flirty, and thriving forever. Because that's your prime years. Your joints don't hurt as much. You're in the prime years of working, and you're continuing to do whatever you want to do for your future. But keep the books in mind, keep the literature in mind, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.